It's critical to incorporate emotion in your painting. You can tell when you look at great works of art in a museum, you can almost read them like a book.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Art Dimensions podcast, Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions in Los Angeles. Today, my guest is Mark Andrew Allen, a fantastic painter who blends urban street art, typography, mixed media collage, and abstract expressionism in his works. Mark has a strong graphic design background, and he studied art at both the Parsons School of Design in New York City and Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. I'm so excited for our interview today. Hey, Mark.
Hey, what's up, Whitney?
Not much. Welcome to the Art Dimensions podcast.
I'm honored to be a part of this. It's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate your time. And all right, let's dive in. Why painting rather than another medium like photography for you? Why painting rather than another medium such as photography or sculpture?
Well, actually, I use a lot of photography in my work.
Yeah.
So I'm open to anything. I love doing three-dimensional work. I just like tackling it all. So, I incorporate painting in my work, but I do a lot of things like I did an entire mannequin in the style of what I do. I've done some, boxes, we go all the way around it. So I do a little bit of all of that.
You do a little bit of everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I just, as artists, we got to challenge ourselves and stay interested, so.
Yeah. I have not seen your sculptural work. I've seen your surfboards.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about, but
cool.
That's so cool. All right. Who are some of your greatest influences?
I'd have to start with Picasso. I spent about 6 years studying him. Robert Rauschenberg, who I was fortunate to meet 4 times. Andy Warhol, who I met twice.
Wow.
Yeah, Roy Lichtenstein, who I met. Larry Rivers, who I met. I like what Jeff Koons is doing. I've met him several times. I like what Damien Hirst is doing. I've met him, and he's doing some really interesting things as far as like buying back a lot of his work just to reintroduce it to the market. He's a whole different character.
What do you like about his work? I mean, I know the Pills series and the butterflies and the skulls.
Yeah, I think the thing that I find really interesting is the work that he did, which was like retail cases and things like that. I find that really interesting. That to me, I really responded to more than anything. But but he's like all over the place, and so I clearly don't like everything he does. But there's not that many artists that I like everything that they do.
Right, right.
So I mean, including my own stuff. It's kind of like, oh, I like that better than that. But he fascinates me with just tackling anything. It's coming like now he's actually doing paint on canvas. It's just so weird because most of his stuff is in the stuff that I regard as interesting is. Just pushing it and just I mean, it's kind of the same way I'm inspired. I don't want to just do a series of this or I'm like open every day. People ask me what inspires you. It's like day-to-day life inspires me, and so I have folders and folders and folders of ideas, and I'm always putting more into it, but I'm never looking at them because whenever I get ready to start something, I just do it, and it's just kind of within me. Anyway, that's kind of a long answer.
No, that's a great answer. You're inspired by everyday life and
yeah. I mean, that's
your experiences.
I don't like to stay in one little division of like, okay, I'm going to just paint boats.
Right.
It's just that's it. I mean, that's okay for the boat people. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, I get tired of stuff quick, and it's like, okay, what's next? And I like to create several paintings at once.
Oh, you work on a few at a time?
Yeah. Sometimes 6 to 8 at once. And got some red paint. Maybe I could put some red paint on that one too, and a little bit over here, and just kind of keeping it going.
Okay, so you've termed, I think termed is the right word. You've termed your paintings and your prints urban pop expressionist work.
Tried to check a few boxes on that one.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Okay, so I'd have to take each word. So expressionist is my love for like de Kooning and people like that. So I've got to put a little bit of that in each work. The pop is probably my tip of the hat to, Warhol and Lichtenstein. And so like what I'm doing, I mean, that's probably when it comes down to subject matter. The urban thing, I think I find interesting as far as like the street art goes, where for example, like, when you're walking down New York City and you see all this different stuff sprayed on the wall, and you'll see then there's some posters, and then it's rained on it, and then people have ripped it off or whatever. And then if you just photograph that one thing, to me it seems like it kind of continue, like where do you crop it? Where do you crop that sort of thing? It kind of goes on, kind of like life goes on. So I try to incorporate a little bit of that into each one of my pieces, where it's like it looks like there's like a little bit of graffiti that's kind of like going off the side, kind of like he cropped this out of a wall. So I always try to incorporate that part of it.
Let's talk about a few of your different series. You've got I'm going to list some different series that you have, but we don't have to talk about all of them. You've got the prints, small works, surfboards, neon works, Western pop, and conceptual art. So knowing that, what are you up to today or these days in your studio? And let's focus on like which series are you contributing to these days? Or is it a totally new one?
It's getting ready to be a totally new one.
Oh, cool.
I think with my father just passing, who's an artist, in the new year, it just seems like there needs to be a separation. There needs to be like a stop and a start of something new. And so that clearly, and I can't tell you what it is because I'm going to invent whatever it is. And I'm a strong believer of when you go to do a work, I'm not interested in planning a whole lot of it out in the beginning. To me, it's got to be, I've got to be in it the whole time. So I'm not interested in like, okay, here's this thing and I'm going to do. Invariably, when I start with here's this thing, it always ends up somewhere else in the end. And I love that kind of thing. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But regarding like the Western pop, we went to Nashville a few years ago. I'd never been there, and I was just so inspired and with this whole country Western thing, which I never was that interested in, and it kind of sparked something in me because I'm from Texas, and it kind of like touched in some of my roots and a lot of the stuff that I was used to being around when I was growing up, even though I resisted it because I was more like the hippie rather than the cowboy.
Right.
So I just kind of embraced that, and it's kind of like fun, like diving into a pool of something that you're not that familiar with, and just connecting with different things that just it's almost like romantic. This whole Western culture, and so I just thoroughly enjoyed that. But like I say, I'm getting ready to do something new, and I'm not sure what it is.
Oh my gosh, how exciting. We caught you right. I caught you right at the crossroads.
Yeah.
What in terms of the Western pop, let's just describe. I want the listeners to know you can see some of these pieces at artdimensionsonline.com and also at markandrewallen.com. That's his website, which I really highly recommend you check out. But you'll have like a cowboy with some neon thrown in, like you use actual neon lights, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got the urban sort of street art homage in the background.
Yes.
Is that a good description of some of the Western pieces?
Yes. What I'm trying to do is kind of modernize the cowboy. And so, there's plenty of cowboy paintings out there. Why on earth in a million years when I want to do cowboy paintings? But it's like, what would Mark do with a cowboy painting? So it's like, all right, that's a challenge to me. That to me is like, I'll take that on because I would walk right past every Western gallery there was. Like, I've seen it all my life. I don't want to see more of it. But it's like, oh, but what would I do? It's like, that's a good concept to jump on. And so I start with like just one image that I connect with, and then I build out from there of like, how do I put this person in our world today?
So cool. All right, that leads to my next thought, which is emotions. I mean, we all have emotions, obviously. How do you express them with your paintings, or how do your emotions affect your painting?
It's critical to incorporate emotion in your painting. You can tell when you look at great works of art in a museum, you can almost read them like a book. And my dad and I used to love to go do that. And every time we went to a museum, if we didn't have at least one museum guard, they would say, "Hey, get back, you can't touch that." And we become like, it's okay, we're artists, we're allowed to touch it,
Right.
just messing with them. But I absorb all that, and so I really take that to heart. As they say, like when you break up with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, that's the best time to sit down and do a painting, because it's gonna come through whether you want it to or not. And they say the worst time to do a painting is like when you're fully in love, and because then you're not gonna you're not gonna
You're
it's
not
just
as
you need
emotional or something.
butterflies and hearts and stuff. It's like, you so
Mark just yawned, by the way,
yes.
listeners. He just
So
gave a little yawn.
so yeah, I think it's really important to just like me kind of going through the grieving process right now. It's kind of like, now would be a great time to do something, because something's going to come out.
Definitely.
And that's a great tool that we have as artists and writers and dancers and stuff, of that we can get that and communicate that and share that with people. And I know that other people appreciate like seeing that and absorbing that and kind of going, oh yeah, I feel that too.
For sure. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give to an emerging painter?
I was waiting for you to ask this question. I'd say find something else to do.
Would you really?
Yes, I would. And here's why. This is the hardest career to do. You have to be self-disciplined. You have to be super, super good, because there's everybody in the world doing it. And only do it if you absolutely have to. And then do it full on, because otherwise you're going to be so unhappy. I mean, I have a lot of artist friends that are, pretty good, but they don't really make their career in actually doing art. It's hard. It's really hard. You have to work at it all the time. Ask anybody that's in relationships, they're kind of like, yeah, I mean, this is all I do, and I'm always in trouble with my spouse or whatever. Because if you're going to be really good, you're gonna have to leave a lot of stuff behind. There's a lot of parties that I don't go to. There's a lot of things that I don't go to do because I'm busy doing my work. And I work 7 days a week. I mean, every single day I'm working on this. So do you really want to do that? Sure, jump in the pool, but otherwise,
But you got to
probably
love
shouldn't
it.
get in this business because it's not, oh, I'm just painting pictures and all the Instagram stuff, and oh look, they're all making all this money. There's not
It's not like
many
that.
people do, like 1% that are really making their living doing art. It's a business. You got to be real serious about this.
That's great advice. What's your favorite aspect about being an artist?
Gosh, we are given permission to be bad. We're given permission to just kind of go off the charts and do whatever. We're given permission to go on walks and point out to people, the pretty colors and the flowers. And it's such a great, it's almost like being a minister, of like going around and explaining to people our vision. It's just terrific.
That's awesome. That's an awesome metaphor.
I mean, I can go on and on about just how great it is to just, walk around with artist eyes and to see things. And I just kind of want to blurt stuff out all the time that I see. It's kind of like I have to hold some of that back and just say, shut up. I'm seeing all this stuff that's just terrific that I want to share.
With the
But
world.
I do it, through 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional work. But yeah, I see stuff all the time. I'm constantly inspired. It's like, how am I going to ever do all the stuff that I see that I want to communicate?
My next question is, what's the hardest part about being an artist? Or would it be what you just explained about advice for an emerging artist?
Hardest part is self-discipline. That's critical. I mean, I have notes all over the place, on the floor, on the walls and stuff. Probably got that from my dad, of like, just notes, reminders of like 9:30, that appointment with Whitney for the interview. Make sure that you're ready. Just, it's stuff like that. It's that, you don't, because here's the thing. Other people, they go to work, people tell them what to do all day. I mean, how easy, but they need that. Me, I've got to tell myself what to do. And it's pretty easy to not stay on track. Real easy.
Yeah.
So
I can relate to that.
yeah, we all can, that are in business for ourselves. Of like,
Yeah,
I should always be doing something, right?
definitely. You have
Right.
to stay on top of everything. And
Yeah. I mean, just like you doing these podcasts, it's like it's a discipline that you've created for yourself. And now you're getting the benefit. You're doing enough of them that you've created a nice inventory of stuff. It's terrific. But you
you.
created this, and that's a discipline. And so it's the same thing. It's kind of like, okay, well, the world's your oyster, but you got to get out there and do it.
Very true. Very true. Has COVID affected your practice?
Pretty much zero, just
Okay.
because artists, everybody else gets to find out how an artist lives. We're just by ourselves all the time anyway. It's kind of like I'm quarantining for the last 30 years. It's like nothing different for me other than that other people are around sometimes. It's kind of like I'm always here by myself doing my stuff.
Okay. Okay. So your graphic design background, I'm curious about this, and I think the listeners will find this interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in that, and maybe mention a few of the clients, your high profile clients that you worked with? I just find it very fascinating. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about it.
Sure. It is an interesting part of my career. I grew up a second generation graphic designer. My dad, Harrison Allen, specialized in hand lettering and did some tremendous work in Houston. And he gave me some advice early on, once he saw that I was going in the same direction, that you're going to have to be in a big international market to make it, because this is a niche market to do hand lettering. I took his advice, and it was either New York or Los Angeles. I looked at both, and it just seemed like Los Angeles kind of fit a little bit more to what I was used to in Texas, driving around and the weather and stuff. I did eventually get an apartment in New York for 10 years as well, and kept both. But came to Los Angeles to do hand lettering, and my hand lettering was different from my dad's. My dad's is more of Spencerian script, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And it's like he's already mastered that. And so I started kind of doing different lettering that was more like, somebody that's drinking a little too much coffee and your hand shaky or whatever. And I just kind of developed a style that just took off. It just took off. And I started advertising the workbook, and I started getting huge clients. Any given time I had 7 to 10 projects going. So I was working at the same time with Coca-Cola and Pepsi. I was working at the same time with the Gap and with like Levi's, Miller Beer and Bud Light, both at the same time, doing all this major stuff. And then I worked for a lot of the, pretty much all the movie studios, doing promotion for them. So I did like the MASH style guide. I did the logo, one of the logos for The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I saw that. That is so cool. That's on your website too, at markandrewallen.com.
I did stuff for P. Diddy for 3 of his CDs for his Bad Boy records.
So how many years were you in graphic design?
About 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does it influence your
And I was always
painting?
doing fine art the whole time.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. So, I was showing in galleries in New York while I was doing the graphics, just because that was always where my heart was. So that's why I got the apartment in New York. I remember talking to Saul Bass one time, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving to New York. And he's like, do it. New York's great, and you would love it there. And then ended up finding a small apartment. So I was able to stay in LA and New York.
Have the apartment in New York. Very cool. And so when did you meet Warhol?
I met him when I was going to Parsons School of Design. We stayed in there's about 12 of us that stayed in an apartment across from Union Square, which is right where his factory was. At that time, it was Interview Magazine. So yeah, I met him a couple of times, once at an art opening where he gave me an Interview Magazine, which I still have. And
Very cool.
And then another time at his Interview Magazine place of business.
Wow. So cool. So you met him twice or once?
Twice.
Remarkable.
And Rauschenberg, just one of the nicest people that you'd ever want to meet. Just such a sweet, sweet man. And
you met him in New York City too?
No, I met him 4 different times, all in LA.
Okay.
Like at the Bobby Greenfield Gallery, which is no longer around. And there was probably only 30 people there at the time that he shows. There's Rauschenberg right there. So cool. Such a neat guy.
I worked for the Bobby Greenfield Gallery.
Well, there you go. It's a great gallery.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And I've known Bobby, and my mom were actually really close friends. So that she had a wonderful gallery, but yes, no longer in existence, unfortunately.
Well, see, that's probably why he showed up, because he didn't go to that many openings, but that doesn't surprise me, that if he really liked the person, because he was a sweetie pie.
Yeah.
He was a lovely, lovely person. One thing I'll say that he said to a little group of us standing, somebody came up and kind of wanted him to summarize his life and say, what can you tell to all artists? And I remember he kind of looked at me and was kind of like, I mean, like, how do I summarize everything? And he turned around and he said, everything you see is important. I said, wow, that is, and I've always took that to heart. So there you go. There's something that Rauschenberg said that everybody should think about.
Very cool. Everything you see is important.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. And, be an observer, open your eyes. And I love that.
Yeah. Be present.
So important. So, right. Being present is the key.
We get distractions constantly, especially with social media and stuff. It's like, how do you focus?
I know. Being present is high up there on my list.
It's a challenge
and I'm working on it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something we all need to stay focused on.
Yeah. If you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
I would do something along the lines of like what Christo did, something that is not just about me, but something where people got to interact with something. I mean, just something on an enormous, scale would have to be the thing. And something that's completely public, that it was just like a huge gift to everybody, something everybody can go, oh man, and it would have some sort of, aha, I get it, where, you first experience it and then you're kind of like, oh, ooh. Yeah, so it's not all spelled out. That's what I would do. If anybody wants to donate the $1 million, send it to the email
me
address right here. Send it to Whitney and she'll get it to me.
Yes.
We'll get going on that right away.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you. This was awesome. Fun.
Lovely to talk to you.
It's lovely to talk to you. Thank you for being a guest on Beyond the Palette today. Listeners, be sure to check out Mark's creations at artdimensionsonline.com. You can follow us on Instagram at artdimensions. So to Mark and everybody out there listening, have an excellent day, happy hump day, and happy creating.